Hey, you guys, welcome back. For the month of November, we're going to be doing a tea and testimony where we talk about things that we're thankful for, all that we've endured and gone through, and just to reflect upon what God has done in our lives. Joanne, you want to take it away?
What's up, guys? For those of you who are new, my name is Joanna. We've got Nissy and we've also got Angelin today. So we are the Beholding Initiative team. So we're really excited for this conversation today. But before we do, we have to talk about what we're drinking. So I'll go first. Nissy, I'll give it to you, and then we'll go to Angelin. I decided to change it up today. I'm actually drinking hot chocolate. I was feeling like cozy Sunday vibes, so I was like, you know what? We're gonna go with some hot chocolate today. So that's what I'm drinking.
I'm actually drinking hot chocolate too.
Wow, look at me. Well, I am having a whole cup of coffee right here. Iced coffee. That's why I have like my little it's glass straw. But anyways, yep, that's my drink for today.
All right, you guys. So it's crazy to think that the last time we did a teen testimony was actually in 2021 November as well. And we were talking and we were like, no, we did one last year, but we were like, no, 2021. And it's crazy how much has changed in the last 2 years. And I know I can speak for everyone when I say that a lot has happened, a lot has changed, but we wouldn't have it any other way. So this tea and taboo, I've titled it like where we were, where we are, and where we're going. So it's a good way to reflect on everything. So background from the last tea and taboo. Um, Joanna was, let's see, we were in a season where we were applying to grad schools, looking for jobs, and then out of nowhere, she got this position that she didn't even apply for. And then let's see, Angelin was fresh out of undergrad, was trying to figure out the next direction of her life, and God had opened up a way for her to get a job at Quest doing some scientific work. And then for me, I was still in this in between season of getting accustomed to the life as a nurse in the ICU. And for us as a ministry as a whole, we actually that year, we changed our name from the Jesus Collective to the Beholding Initiative. So it's crazy to see everyone's going to talk about where we are currently, but it's crazy to think that that's what we were there. That's what was going on then. And here we are now. But so now we're just going to talk about what's changed since then. So Joanna, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm gonna resituate myself because the sun has caught up to me. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, so yeah, I'm still processing that we did this last in 2021. This is actually crazy. Um Now I think I'm in the deep end of whatever the Lord was trying to prepare me for back in 2021. 2021, I experienced what it felt like was like almost like a drought. But what I'm walking in right now is almost just the overflow that came after that. And so, yeah, current season, current day, I'm still working at the company that I got back in 2021 as a recruiter. Since then, I have been in seminary. So I'm a part-time seminary student at Dallas Theological Seminary for Christian leadership. It has been quite the journey. Um, don't let anyone romanticize Bible school to you guys because I have such a love-hate relationship with it. But we can get into that maybe another day. And then also, obviously, one of the biggest things since then has been the business. So I started a business called Chechi's Chai. We're not quite a year into it yet, but man, that has been a stretching journey as well. So definitely a season of a lot going on. So just learning to navigate that. And again, comparing that back to 2021, I had nothing. Like we've told this story to you guys. Like I still think about the summer of 21 where I would literally wake up whenever I wanted to. I would go to bed whenever I wanted to. There was nothing keeping me to a schedule versus now I'm having to use like a block schedule every single day to block out time for the millions of things that I have to get done. And I think anytime I feel overwhelmed about it, I stop to think back to 2021 where I would cry and pray and ask the Lord for purpose and mission. So to be in the season now where I'm building and establishing so many different things, it's eye-opening, it's humbling, and truly it has brought me to my knees, which again, that's like the best place to be throughout your life. But yeah, just super grateful for the season.
Dude, like when you were talking about there you were just waking up, and then now you're like, I mean, at that time you were just waking up and just like doing life, but now you have to like block schedule. I was just thinking about the fact that like our schedules were, when me and Joanna used to talk all the time, we would like wake up at like 11 o'clock in the morning and be like, okay, like what are we gonna do today? Like now we were like, dude, I have to do this. Like, 5 minutes before this call, even we're like, oh my God, I have this going on and this going on. But it is crazy to like reflect that way. For me, current season of my life, right now, I'm in grad school. It's crazy that I'm actually about to finish grad school too in a little bit. So that when we took this when we last filmed our tea and testimony, that was like me not even knowing what direction of school I was going to go to, because I think I was so narrow-minded all of undergrad, thinking this is the one direction I was going to go in, and the Lord like completely had to strip all my plans away, take me through a wilderness journey. I know we talked about Isaiah 43:19 a whole lot that year. Yeah, right now I'm in grad school. I am um, in Memphis, which is a completely different city than where I was. I was in Atlanta. Nissy talked about how I got a job at Quest at that time through my mom. It was kind of crazy how I just went from a season of like, this is not even somewhere I would look into, to like applying to Quest and getting a cytology position, and which somehow randomly correlated with the degree I did in undergrad. Like, but see, again, that was the Lord. In hindsight, you see a lot of things that he like already started doing like back sophomore year in college, but you don't see it. So anyways, I had started a job, found favor in the eyes of all of my bosses and supervisors during that time. Everybody was telling me to apply for cytology school, looked up schools. There were only like 20 schools in the entire nation for that. Ended up getting into the top school for that. And then going into a fasting season where I was like, okay, God, is this even where I'm supposed to go in, and all of that. The Lord somehow during the interview itself gave me an on-spot acceptance. It was a crazy time of the Lord redeeming a lot of things that I had lost in the year of my wilderness time. And during like, now I look back, and during the season where I was lamenting a whole lot, one of the things the Lord had taught me was contentment, because I think a lot of times when we understand that when God is all we have this opportunity to learn the secret of contentment, because when you don't have anything else to hold on to, like that's what you start like holding on to. And I remember that was like what God was teaching me during that time, bringing me into school. So I had to move to Memphis. First thing, we come here apartment hunting, and everybody's like, oh, like live on this island in Memphis because that's like the safer area for all the grad students. So we're going up, we're at the edge of Tennessee. If y'all know where Memphis is, it's in the border of Tennessee and Arkansas. And so it's on it's the Mississippi River is what separates Tennessee and Arkansas. But anyway, so we go to this island that everybody was like telling me that's where you should live. And Joanna was with me during that time because, she had come with me to apartment hunt, like with my family. And we're going in the car, and we're going up this bridge to get into the island. And I just immediately hear the Lord say, this is the way in the wilderness. This is the river in the desert. And I just remember like looking at the Mississippi River and just kind of like getting a little emotional, because like who gets emotional at the Mississippi River? Me. For this whole time, the Lord to say, hey, I will make a way in the wilderness. I will make a river in the desert, and to bring me in front of a river, to constantly, like for this entire 2 years that I'm going to be here, be living in front of a river, reminding me the things that he did the last season was great. Because to this day, now that I'm in grad school, the season that I went through before this prepared me to how I should handle grad school now. I like told Nissy and Joanna this before, but like every time I have an exam or something, like in this current season, I come up the bridge and it's the same reminder from the Lord. Like he brought me to a place away in the wilderness, a river in the desert, this river that he provided for me in my life, right? If he did that, what can one test grade, what can one small thing that I mess up will change like my entire life? Because God controls that whole area. He takes control. Nothing that you do messes up the plans that he has for you. So current season of life, just like super busy, very involved in school, very involved in church and medical missions over here. So it's been crazy how in hindsight I see how much the Lord had to prepare me in that season for me to like better be in this season, I guess, technically. But yeah.
For anyone that needed to know, Behold Initiative is very one with the creation. Okay, like we are one.
We like to talk about the water and desert and the rain.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, so good. And for me to talk about my current season, going back what Angela was saying though, how like God's plan had prevailed, it reminded me of this verse real quick that I wanted to say before I went into my current season. Proverbs 19 verse 21. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. I think we know that now, looking back, we're like, okay, what we had was completely different than what God wanted for us. And so I wouldn't change a thing. And so this current season of life, since 2021, I have still been working as a nurse in the ICU. And let me tell you, these girls have heard all of my stories. And every time I talk about it, I'm like, I feel like people are like, does she have to keep talking about this again? But like, it has shaped me, it has molded me, it has grown me. And before I even started nursing, I had this dream in my heart to eventually go back to school and become a nurse anesthetist. And as soon as COVID hit and I started working, that dream like went out of my heart. I was like, you know what? Life is hard as it is. Let me just make it day by day. It's fine. But it's crazy because God is a God who knows what's on your heart, the desires that you have, and he remembers every detail. And here we are 3 years later. So when I first started in COVID, like 2020 during COVID, that May of 2020, I had walked into my manager's office desperate to quit because I couldn't handle like the 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 stress and the overwhelming sensation of being in the ICU, of having like this much not like just being surrounded by so much death and dying. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm not cut out for this. I don't know why God has placed me here. I don't know what I'm doing in my life. And now fast forward 3 years later, this May as well, the same day actually, because I kept a journal, the same day 3 years ago now, like I started grad school for nurse anesthesia. And it's crazy how God works. Like I would have never, if you had told Nissy then that I would be where I am now, like I would have laughed in your face. And now coming up on my second semester of nurse anesthesia school, about to finish that. January, I'm starting in-person classes. And then this December, I'm actually saying goodbye to working in the ICU and my time as a nurse. And I am so distraught. Like I am going to be a mess when I start working my last couple shifts. And it reminds me of that quote by Winnie the Pooh, how lucky am I to have something like saying goodbye so hard. And it's just I'm not ready to say goodbye. The people I've met, the experiences that I've had, they shaped and molded me. I've grown so much mentally, physically, and most of all spiritually, and I am so beyond grateful.
Dude, Winnie the Pooh was wise, man. Like we don't give him enough credit.
Who was spitting facts in those days?
Who just had an answer for everything in life. If honey couldn't fix it, he had some other profound word. Okay.
Absolutely. I love it.
So moving on, I know we've described our current seasons, but now I want to like draw in and talk about like what has God specifically been speaking to you about this current season of life?
So there are so many things. So many things. But three things that I think I just thought about when I was praying and prepping for this was number one, rest. That has been the anthem of 2023 for me. I think I've shared this in other like tea and taboos and stuff before, but beginning of this year, the promise verse that I got was Matthew 11:28. And it made no sense to me because it said, come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. But coming into 23, I was like, I'm starting, or we're getting into so many things. How does this make sense? Is the Lord going to ask me to just stop everything? But what became so true for me as the year went on was that phrase, come to me. And the reality of that phrase is that whether you have a little bit more of an open schedule or open season and it's not as busy, or if you're so busy that you're trying to catch a breath, the one thing that will give you rest is if you come back to him. And it's so crazy because I think this year especially, I've realized that the Christian community is advocating for rest so much. But what's happened is that we're advocating for rest, and don't get me wrong, that's so important. But in the process, I think we've put a stigma on busyness. And it almost feels like you're getting like a side eye if you're super, super busy in the Christian community. So what I'm saying now, or what I believe so strongly now, is that we need to navigate the conversation. Yes, continue to advocate for rest, continue to advocate for people to take time off. But I think we need to learn to extend grace and affirmation and love to those who are genuinely busy and it's completely out of their control. I think we need to learn how to show up for them and champion them. Even if it's just saying things like, hey, I love you for you, and I'm proud of you for pursuing the things that you're pursuing. Or, hey, thank you for the things that you're doing right now, and this is how it's impacted my life. I really felt burdened by it because I was like, okay, so does that mean it's wrong that I'm busy? Am I wrong for being in the space of busyness? But as we wrap up the year, what I'm realizing and what the Lord's really calling me to is, hey, no, your busyness does not make you far from me. Actually, your busyness draws you closer to me, because a lot of the things that I ask you to do, it's in spite of you. Like, you need me at the end of the day, and I get glory through that. And so if there's any of you that are watching this and you're in busy seasons and you feel a little, oh gosh, like the Christian community is going to come for my neck because I'm busy, understand that even in your busy seasons, you can get away with the Lord and you can come to him, and he will even give you rest while you're running. And I think that's so, so important for you to understand. The two other things that I learned, one of the things is loving people well. So whether that's like just overall in the marketplace, in ministry, in life itself, just learning to love people deeply and love them well. Or even in friendships. I think this year a lot of different kinds of people have come into my life, and learning to love every single person regardless of their personality. Like, different people have different personalities, different interests, different backgrounds, but being able to be like, you know what, I'm not just going to build my community of people around people that are like me or who are always like, just agreeable to me. No, I'm going to love the people that aren't always so easy to love, and I'm going to love them like Christ loves them. And the last thing for me is wait on God to tell you to move. So what that basically means is trust him when he says no, but also trust him when he says go. So in seasons where he does say go, a lot of the times when God asks you to do something, it's not going to make sense to you. You're not going to feel qualified. You're going to feel very underprepared, but that makes sense because ultimately the Lord's asking you for you to be dependent on him. Because when he invites you to go, he's also inviting you to see success through his eyes. So it's not going to be about the numbers. It's not going to be about, how many people are talking about the thing that you're doing. No. If you live in obedience to what the Lord's asking you to do, that's all that matters. End of story, period. And then one more point to that is, when we try to fix a problem, see, whenever we start, this is specifically to the visionaries, the dreamers, pioneers, when you start thinking up a new idea, you're always thinking of a new idea to fix some kind of problem in the world. Now, here's the thing. Humans will come up with short-term solutions, but the Lord establishes long-term impact. So unless you say, God, I'm only going to move when you move, and when you tell me to stop moving, I'm going to stop moving, you're not going to be in alignment with something that's going to be of value for a long time. You're going to do something that's going to die when you die. And that's not what we want. We want to be able to set things in motion that are going to be established for long-term impact. So I just want to encourage you, don't feel like you need to rush. Don't feel like you need to take forever. When the Lord says do something, obey immediately. When he says stop, Don't feel like it's a failure. It's the Lord, the maker of the heavens and the earth. He's telling you to stop. He has a reason, so stop. So 3 things that I feel like I've been learning in this season.
Dude, those are all really good ones. I was just like, wow, yes, let's go preach it real quick. Um, For me, I think this year, normally I go every year with like, God, teach me a bunch of things, like, a lot of, like, I have a lot of prayer requests going in and whatnot. But I think this year, really, the Lord is focusing a lot more on quality in my life than quantity. I think it's like very much relearning to do in a lot of different areas that I thought was already okay. Um, which is kind of crazy because I think you think, oh, you're 24, this whole time in your life, you've gotten to this level and you're like, you got that area nailed down and you're going to a different area. You want to focus on a different area. And it's like, God is like, psych, let's go revisit that area back again. But I think for me, biggest thing, the Lord has been teaching me a lot about my prayer life. I think from the beginning of this year, the Lord has like shown me the whole importance of praying behind the doors and being behind the scenes with my prayer life, and kind of showing me the fruit and it's almost like a beautiful thing the Lord is like teaching you, but at the same time kind of equipping you and growing you in those areas. So I think a lot of this season has been the Lord coming through when I didn't have anything, coming through when I'm in my most desperate time, teaching me like where my weakness and his grace meets. And it's so beautiful this year. I think like it's November right now, and I'm like looking in hindsight from like my journal from this whole year. And I honestly stopped writing in the middle of this year, and like, I just feel like if I did, I could tell y'all more things the Lord showed me. But biggest thing the Lord has taught me is to reposition my spiritual feet, to lay all the groundwork that I should be praying for in these years right now for my 30s and 40s. And it's it's crazy how much I think like we don't realize the importance of praying in our 20s for our future. But it's powerful because I mean, even like hearing 2 years back what God did in these 2 years, right? What more can God do if we are so in faith and praying for the things and claiming for the things in our 30s and 40s, right? So, but biggest thing in my life is just prayer life. It's like really like the biggest thing. I think I've understood more in depth of fasting and the importance of fasting. And a lot of just needing Christ when I have nothing, and that's the only thing that I could hold on to. But there is a quote that Corrie ten Boom says that you can never learn that Christ is all you need until Christ is all you have. And I feel like that is something that I keep learning more and more this year. But yeah.
Actually, I have 3 things that God has spoken to me in this current season of life, but I also forgot to talk about another big thing that's happening in my life from 2021 till now. I was telling these girls before we started, I'm like, I'm gonna talk about this and this, and I totally got distracted, and that's the tea.
Literally, I was about to say, is this a secret? Are we not talking about
I
this
was
here or
kind of
what?
confused that you already had made an Instagram official, so like I didn't realize like
Yeah.
Like as soon as I moved on to the next question, I was like, wait, I didn't talk about it. Anyway, so rewind. 2021 November, when we actually were recording that Tea and Taboo. I wish we could just insert little Missy there. Okay, I was actually 2 weeks into talking to my now fiance, but 2 weeks fresh into talking to him. We weren't even officially dating yet. And I remember telling these girls like, hey, I'm talking to somebody. But like I was like, maybe this will be different. Like, I don't know where God's taking this, but it feels different. It feels right. And fast forward 2 years later, March of this year, he proposed to me, and then we got Indian engaged this September. His name is Alex. He's from Chicago. We're getting married next year. And my gosh, so I'm in this like
it's all booed up.
grad school, I am also juggling engagement life, planning a wedding. It's crazy, y'all. It feels surreal. Like that's what I'm saying. I like it completely slipped my mind, and God forbid when Alex watches, he's gonna be like, "Great, that's the." But you guys, like, I wouldn't change a thing. It's crazy, y'all. So that being said, now that we're finally caught up, what God has been teaching me, three things. Earlier this year, there's this point in life, like even when you're surrounded by all the people that you love and know, you still feel alone, and it's a weird feeling. And God was teaching me that it's you're not alone, you have me, but you need to make time for me. And he brought up Genesis 16 to me, where Hagar was in the wilderness and she felt completely utterly alone, abandoned, kicked out, and God spoke to her and she was like, I have seen the God who sees me. And she could have said the God who sees, but she says the God who sees me. And that really struck a chord with me because there are so many of us in this world. There are so many of us that are going through so many things, but God is still the God. He knows every single detail of your life. And even before you were born, he knew you in your mother's womb. He is the potter, we're the clay. Like all these things, like we've heard these things so many times, but when I tell you, God knows every single detail in your life, and he will always provide you with what you need. And we know God as Jehovah Jireh, the God who provides. And once we get those things, we start worrying, okay, how am I going to make this last? How am I going to maintain this? How is this going to be sustained? Not only is he the God who provides, but he's the God who protects what he provides. So like Angela was saying earlier, like she was driving over the river and God would be like, okay, this test grade, that test grade, that doesn't matter because I brought you to where you are right now. Like nothing can take that away. And that reminded me, like, God protects what he provides. Like if he's put you in the position that you are, the place that you are in your family, in your workplace, in your church, anything that you're doing that he has given you, that he's blessed you with, he will protect it. And no plan or scheme of man can ever take that away if God has willed it for your life. And then lastly, what I was recently taught, I've been starting like running again, and I run outside my house, like in my neighborhood. And every time I run, I pass this house that's like under construction. So I've seen it from like the bricks on the ground, the foundation being laid, and all this stuff. And every time I run past it, I'm like, Lord, I want to get a word from this house. Like speak to me through the construction of this house. And like I'm like everyone knows like okay, Christ is our firm foundation. Yes. Like that's like, everyone knows. Like that's like the basic thing I could get from that. But I was like, Lord, I want you to speak to me. And when I was this past week when I was running past it, I just happened to look back as I passed it already, and I looked back and I was like, wait, there's something else. And I like got this thing where it's like he says, I'm building you from the ground up. And it's like I can't build from something that's already in place that you may have already created that may be detrimental to your walk with me, to your walk like through life. And I have to tear it down and start over and build something new and fresh from the ground up with a firm and secure foundation. And I was just taken aback that he so these new beginnings, these new transitions, like we might feel like we're starting from ground zero. Yes, we might be, but he is just making the path clear for us to be able to start fresh, to start anew with him. So yeah, that's what I've been learning. So I guess now that we talked about what God has been speaking to us, we can, let's see, talk about the current season of our ministry, the beholding. So I guess we can take turns talking.
Yeah, I'll jump right in. So beholding has been interesting for me this year because again, Nissy and Angela know this. I think I've gone through a lot of wrestling with what the Lord's doing. And we've had conversations before where it's like, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, we don't want to be where he's not, and we don't want to force something that he doesn't want. And so I think I definitely went through a period when we were all starting school and we were doing a lot of stuff where I was like, guys, do we feel like the Lord's in this? Is this something he's still asking us to do? And one thing that's been true of the Identity of Beholding Initiative has been that it has grown with us. And so a lot of the things, a lot of the initiatives, a lot of the things that we've done on this platform have been very reflective of what the Lord's doing and teaching us. And so, especially this season where we've kind of navigated into like teaching the Bible, or like what that's going to look like for our community, it's been very interesting because it's not easier by any means. Like, I asked them the question of, hey, do you guys feel like we can still do this? And the resounding answer was yes. Like, let's keep going. Like, let's keep pressing into what God's doing. And doing Bible studies and teaching from the Word of God, it's required a little bit more. And I'll speak for myself. It's required a little bit more of my time than what was happening in Behold Initiative before, because now it's this responsibility of, if we're going to teach the Word, we got to learn the Word. And so before we deliver, we've got to do the work ourselves. And so it was very necessary, but it's also very interesting to see the Lord navigate us through this while we're all in such busy seasons. But it's just been such a blessing, I think, just watching the Lord do that and grow us in it, and then being able to share that with everyone else. And last bit I'll just say is, I think more than ever before, it's so important for us to get with the Lord. Not that that was never not a priority, but I think this season especially, we're just very aware of, hey, we need to make sure that like we're checking in with the Lord, that we're praying together, that we're making sure that the Lord is speaking into what we're doing versus doing it on our own. So
Sorry, I thought I was on mute. I think as a ministry, we've kind of like understand the depth of the fear of God. Like you were talking about how like I think we always knew it, but I think we're like, the older we're getting, the more we're like scared. Almost we're the fear of God is like it's getting more and more. I feel like every time, like you said, this season specifically, even yesterday when I was like prepping for like the devotional, like I just realized how much time it had taken me, because I have to sit down and in depth like study like each chapter before I can just give a devotional, if that makes sense. But it's one of those things where I think like you said, yes, what we're doing as ministries, what God is teaching us. Like I think we're all in a season where we're studying the word like for what it is. Like before you used to come to the word, like I think different seasons we used to come to the word for different things. Like we would come for encouragement, we would come for this, and yes, we could still come to the word for encouragement, but like during this time I think we're all like trying to see what God is speaking in the word by itself, and what the context, that every little part of it, more than just like a little bit of it or whatnot. But I guess I'll talk about the community group. We've been I think as a ministry we've started, I think we started with just like in like social media, and then we geared into collaborative worship, collaborative prayer. And I don't know what we were doing in 2021 exactly during that time when I think we had just started. Did we just come out of lives? I think we were still doing lives during that time, prayer lives and whatnot. Oh my God, what a crazy time.
where we
Oh
would wake up on a Saturday and be like, good morning, guys.
my
Let's roll out of bed.
It's
Even
so
awake yet.
funny. It's so funny because to this day I'll like go back all the way down, especially when we were Jesus Collective, and you could see Angela just woke up. She just woke up on that Saturday morning, and she was like, um, please comment your prayer request. Like, let us know what we could be praying for you. So we moved into tea and taboos, and then slowly when all the COVID restrictions came down and everything else, it was good time for us to like all meet in person. We started doing in-person gatherings. Our worship nights was so sweet. We got to see everybody we've been interacting with. I think this year too, like for the first time, I saw a lot of people that we've only seen on Zoom. Like a lot of times I would be like, oh my God, it's so nice to see you in person. I think we formed a lot of friendships before that. And then to see people during worship nights, to come together and worship. It's one thing to worship online, but another thing to like worship in person, come together and pray as a community was awesome. And then now we've transitioned into community groups. And we've only like done one so far, but even that, it's just nice to come together to read the Bible in depth and talk about the most convicting things. Because, like, I mean, that's why we're here for. We're not here to just like talk about a question and like go back to our normal life.
I think we also learned as a ministry, like Joanna was touching on this earlier, that if we don't have that personal relationship with Christ, how do we expect to like be able to pour into others and to be able to hear from him? So I think we've more than anything grown individually, but it's also been nice to have our community come together in person and online to like grow together and motivate each other and keep each other accountable.
So, Nisi, you can go first, and then Joanna, and then I'll go. But after reflecting, like all the reflecting that we were doing, uh, of where we were to where we are now, what was an unrealistic goal you had set for yourself?
Ooh. So I think in the previous season of life, I think I was relying and operating on my own strength more than relying on God. And I think God shut that down real quick. And he was like, you can't do anything without me. So I think I had this unrealistic goal that like it'll be okay because I will work hard and I will put in the time and the effort and we'll get through it. But quickly learned like nothing happens until you utterly rely and depend on God.
I think the unrealistic goal was my timeline. I was at a Bible study earlier this week and we were all talking about like, where did you think you would see yourself at 25? And I was literally sitting there dying laughing because I was like, by 25, I literally thought I would be married. And my life would have looked so different, but instead, still single, started a business, like there are just so many things that it was just not planned. And I think that's where the Lord always steps in, is when he's like, Missy said this before, where she was like, we're all planners. Yeah. Like what does the next 5 years look like for me? What are my goals? Like in 5 years, where do I want my life to be? And I think I've quickly realized you can't plan that far out. Like it has to be a day to day, what does the Lord want of me in this season kind of thing. But yeah, for me, my unrealistic expectation was my timeline.
I think my unrealistic expectation was kind of, it overlaps as both of y'all timeline, and also I think letting go of the plans that I had. I think like I like to, I mean, I kind of took pride in this in high school and in college, being like, I know exactly where I'm going to be in the next 5 years. Like I know exactly what I'm going to do. Like I have my life planned out the next 10 years. Like I was very like on top of it planner. And so I think like the unrealistic goal for me was like not like how do you say, I guess not even giving the Lord a chance to step outside of what my bubble is. Like I think I was so focused in the things that I wanted and like what I planned that I didn't even for a second like step outside to see what God was trying to teach or say during that time. So and then it like, stressed me out way too much, but my timeline was exactly mapped out. The control freaked me out that I wasn't in control anymore, but yeah, those were my unrealistic goals.
All right. Well, we're all in like, very busy seasons in different ways. So what would you guys say is the way you guys take care of yourselves? What does self-care look like? Just give us like a routine, or what do you do in a week to de-stress? Nissy, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Angela and I'll wrap up.
All right. So it can go either one of two directions. Like maybe some days I'll de-stress where I'm just like, I'm ready to get in my bed. I'm ready to put on a TV show and just chill and like cry or de-stress, decompress. Other days, when I'm in a healthier mindset, I have started back into exercising and running, and I forgot how much I loved running and going out in nature and embracing like God's creation and just like being in that quiet time. And sometimes I'll listen to music and sometimes I'm just walking, and just that itself clears my mind and helps me like not stress about what's currently stressing me about what's overwhelming me. It just helps me clear my mind and either hear from God or just be present. And then what else do I do? I mean, you can't forget the face masks, the the body scrubs, the, you look good, feel good days. So that's what I've been doing.
I have three things, yeah, that I do normally. But so I think I love being out in nature. I think we like talked about how much we all three love nature. But for me, it's been taking the walks by the Mississippi River. Like no, there is like a whole pathway right in front of the river, and it's like 2 miles and 2 miles and back, and it's always so nice. Except right now it's super cold, so I can't take a walk like that. But I love taking a walk or going on a walk with a friend. For me, I think it's always nice to de-stress and take care of myself, um, hanging out with people that are uplifting, people who are like my best friends here, and like people who love important to me. So like a good hangout, or either getting coffee, going on a walk, or even working out, being muscle mommies together has been awesome.
That
I
is a wrap for today, guys. We are
Muscle
leaving.
mommies?
Not the muscle mommy. Oh my
Guys,
God.
yeah, we've discovered that lifting gives me joy. It honestly has been so nice to have a good workout routine being in school, because I think you can, especially during rotations and like any demanding days, you can come home and just feel very lazy and like immediately want to, like, when I see my bed, all I want to do is like lay down. And but having to work out, getting my endorphins in, I can study back again. So it's been a season of routine, and I love it. I love routines. Third thing is to sleep in. Any Saturday I can get, I sleep in. And me and my roommate, sometimes we do these perfect Saturdays. I sometimes talk about it, where if we don't have any exams that week, we like to just like randomly wake up late, go to the farmer's market, slow study, get a coffee and slow study. Oh, so nice. You don't need to aggressively turn your brain on for anything. But those are all the little things that I think this semester has been like so sweet in those things. How about you, Jonah?
Well, for me, self-care has really boiled down to a few things. Number one, I have loved my time in community. I agree with Angela, and I think recently just any sort of hangout, any sort of gathering has just been it's just been so good for my soul. It's so funny because one of the new things that I started doing this year was I started leading a high school group at Church of the City right across the street from me. And like even just being with high school girls like has unleashed like a childlikeness in me within the context of church, which I didn't realize how much I needed. Like just sitting with a group of like 15 girls and hearing what they're walking through. A part of me is just like, oh honey, I would give anything to be a high schooler again, like. But yeah, like leading that group or just being in community. Yesterday I was at a Friendsgiving, and I remember sitting there just like really just breathing deep and just going, this really feeds my soul. And that's one of those things about busy seasons that I think I get lost in, is I get so consumed by what I'm doing that I forget that I need people. So community has really been like a life source for me. Another thing for me, as you all should already know, I recently started driving a little bit, like 20 minutes out of the city. If you drive out, the stars are so clear. And if I'm ever having a really hard day, I'll just drive out and sit there just like to stargaze. And it sounds like it's like, Joanna, why are you going out away from the city without anyone else? No, but listen, I'm safe.
No, she's about to get kidnapped going out of the city.
Yeah. No, literally, I am like, I'm gonna do this, Lord. You protect me. This is my time with you. You got to protect me.
Exactly.
But literally, I'll just go out in my car. I'll turn on some worship music, and I'll just be like, and y'all, if y'all saw me, like, I'll just be looking at the window, just sobbing, and I'm good. After that, I'm great, good to go. My last thing that I love to do is I love cleaning and organizing and decluttering. So on really bad, like hard weeks on the weekend, you'll watch me literally open up my drawers. I'll take everything out. I'll be wiping down surfaces. And my therapist would tell me, she was like, you realize that that's like, you're physically trying to represent what's happening in your head, which totally makes sense. I agree with her. Therapy, go get it. They're truly profound. So yes, I do love cleaning and organizing.
Other thing that I keep noticing is like how like we all have different places where we're like sobbing. And she was like, she was like, yeah, like if you ever roll down next to me in like the out of the city place where I'm stargazing, you would just see me sobbing. For me, it's been like right before an exam at 8 o'clock because my exams are always at 9. I'm like driving in my school is only like 7 minutes from here. And I'm like blasting that worship music. And if anyone next to me, they will just see me blast Great is Thy Faithfulness crying.
Oh my, yo, one time I was driving and sobbing, and this car pulls up next to me, and the person's just like, "It's gonna be okay." And I was
Okay.
Dude, it's the fact that we cry in our cars. Like, if people are
Oh,
like, what? Are you okay? We're just like,
oh,
yes, just let me cry.
let me just
like,
cry. No,
crying
but
is therapeutic. Okay.
yeah, I was someone was talking about how like the joy of driving alone in the mornings and I was like 100% I agree. I agree. I need my time alone in the car because that's where I do all my processing. That's where I talk to the Lord. That's where I'm like crying. And every time someone pulls right next to me, I'm like, I refuse to make eye contact with you. Like I will not be looking to the side, you know?
Yeah.
It's just funny that we all are sobbing in different places.
What would you tell your future self if you could say anything to your future
Cue the tears, cue the tears. I'm gonna start crying about this.
self?
You everything. Oh my God, yeah, dude. This okay, the entire tea and testimony here. I could say so much more. Like we could sit down here and tell y'all our entire story about every day I feel like I'm learning something, right? So it's just like when you put all these questions, I'm just sitting here being like, but there is so much more to say. For me, I think I would definitely tell my future self to remember every single thing God has done so far. I think that's like the biggest driving factor when you pray in faith, when you get to hold on to answered prayers that has happened in your life. I think it's one thing to hear from other people and hear other testimonies and sermons, but when you were able to see what God could do in your life through when you were in the trenches, I think reminding yourself over and over again is what I would tell my future self, and to also let go of control. Like things don't need to be how it is supposed to be. If you could let the Lord be creative in the way he answers your prayers, let him be. Um, so yeah, don't put an agenda. So I'm very agenda less right now. Love it.
For me, I think if anything by now, God's probably like, you learned all the lessons that you need to learn for how you should treat your future. So I think I'm gonna say, if God can do so much in 2 years and it's nothing that you ever imagined, just imagine what he'll do in the next one, the next two, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And it'll always be different than what you imagined, but it'll be exactly how it needs to be.
If I were to tell my future self, I'm like imagining myself watching this video again, and I'm just like, ah. Um, Habakkuk has been a book that I've been reading a lot recently, and there are two verses specifically, I think, for my future self to ever remember is Habakkuk 2, verse 3. Second half of it, it says, if it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come and it will not delay. Literally, our entire lives, we're always going to be waiting on something. And I think if I've learned anything at this point in my life, it's wait on it. It will not delay. Like what we consider slow or delays or it's not on time, in God's timeline, he's like, no, it's on time. Just wait on it. The second verse is Habakkuk 3. At the very, very end, at verse 18, it says, yet I will rejoice in the Lord and I will take joy in the God of my salvation. So I will wait on the Lord and my joy will always be complete in the Lord. So even if things aren't going my way, even if circumstances are different, even if my timeline didn't work out and it fell and crumbled underneath me, yet I will rejoice in the Lord of my salvation. Because if my entire life is a testimony of one thing, it's that he will always, always, always be enough. So those are the two things. And again, just reminding my future self that like he is enough. If you do nothing else, if you get nothing else out of this life, he is enough.
So good. So good. Before Angelina wraps us up in prayer, if any of us have any words of advice, nuggets of wisdom, anything to encourage those who might be watching, those who are struggling at a crossroads, all that, if we have anything to give to them.
Yes, two things really quick. Number one, whatever thing that you're doubting the Lord on what grounds are you doubting him? Like, what has he done to make you doubt him? And if you're waiting for something, you're praying for something, you're anticipating something, I need you to take a step back. And I think Angeline said it. Think back on what he's done. And if for some reason you can't come up with a testimony in your life, crack open your Bible, start in Genesis 1, and the Lord will give you thousands of reasons why he is dependable and you have no reason to doubt him. The second thing, I said this before when I was sharing my testimony, but the second thing is the thing that the Lord is nudging on your heart. He doesn't have to put on your billboard. Even if you feel the slightest nudge or the slightest passion for something, do it scared. If you're in your 20s, if you're a teenager, there's going to be a day in your life when you're in your 50s and your 60s, you look back and you think, man, I wish I had done that thing. I wish I'd followed that nudge. And oftentimes, I said this before, oftentimes the Lord will give you a dream that you are incapable of doing on your own because he wants your dependence. Okay. It's not sabotage. He's not setting you up for failure. He's just asking that you would seek him and surrender your dream to him so that he can give you divine providence in that thing that he's asking you to do. So those are my two things.
If I could share anything, it would be, so Jeremiah 18 talked about the potter and the clay. And I was like really like looking into this, and I was like, in order for a potter to mold clay, the clay has to be so bendable and shapeable. And for us, if we look at it from a human standpoint, as we're the clay, we have to surrender. We cannot be fighting against the potter, the creator. We have to be surrendered to the point where we're just relaxed and just going with it, and God is shaping us and molding us. And of course he will apply pressure where pressure needs to be applied. He will put us to the fire so that we're molded into this vessel, but all of that, like, he knows how it's going to turn out, and he's going to mold us into the perfect vessel for his work. So hold on to that.
For me, I think I keep hearing this. I think Mia Fields talked about it, but if there is no movement in a certain area of your life, praise. I have seen the value of that, and if there is no shift of movement, it is your duty to take that upon yourself, to praise the Lord, to worship in that area, because things will shift. And it might not shift in your timing, but it does shift in hindsight. In hindsight, I see the value of what the word of God says. And second thing I was thinking about is look at trials differently. I know growing up, like, I was like so annoyed by the fact that I know everyone goes through things, but like I remember growing up being like, like things are just so easy for that person, and things are just so easy for that person. But for me, I need to pray and ask for that to happen. And I looked at that like in a very like negative way. And I think going through the last like probably 10 years of my life where God grew me in those areas, I think now I get to see suffering and trials and dry seasons of my life as a time where I can get close to the Lord, because the intimacy that you have during your trials is not the same when you're walking through a season of like answered prayers. It's you are so close to him during that time. And I think one of the things that I would advise is to look at trials and hard seasons in a different perspective, place where God can meet you, and to allow him to meet you during that time. Take convictions with that fear of God. Don't just ask the Lord for things. Don't just pray things and don't not do anything about it. Like, ask the Lord and take conviction seriously. Take the things that He's trying to teach you seriously during this time. If there is, even if it's working at one thing one at a time, that is okay. But another thing that I was also thinking about that I would that I would advise y'all to do is like to thank like your parents for praying for you, because I think during this season of my life I've understood the value of parents' prayers, and to take that with take that in value. I think a lot of times we take our parents' prayers and we don't understand the value of family prayers and whatnot. But I think those are the very things that protect us during the hardest season. So, but those are all like the things that I was thinking about. But anyways, do you want me to pray us out right after this? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and wrap us out. It was so nice to, I know the three of us are friends, and we talk about these things continuously and we walk these seasons together, but I think it's good for the soul to like sit down, pause, and reflect of what God has done in these last few years. But anyways, I'll go ahead and wrap us out. So let's pray. Jesus, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for everything you have given us. Thank you for allowing us to come today, Lord, to talk about the things that you've done so far, Lord. You are so good. The goodness of you is just, it's just always so mesmerizing, Lord. The things that you've done, the lessons that you've taught us, Lord. I pray that we're able to remember these for the rest of the days of our life, Lord. I pray that we take all these things that you've taught us seriously, Lord, and that as we're moving forward in our lives, Lord, that we're going through different seasons, Lord, help us to still anchor our hope in you, Lord. Help us to continue growing the things that you've taught us, Lord. Thank you for teaching all the things that all the lessons that you've taught us so far, Lord, but continue teaching us more, Lord. I pray that that through these lessons we get to learn more of who you are, Lord, who you are in the Word of God, Lord. Thank you for allowing us to read the Word and to dive more into Scripture, Lord. Thank you for giving us all the words of encouragement, all the verses, all the promise verses throughout these seasons, Lord, because these are the very things that we were able to hold on to during the hard times, Lord. So I pray that as we step into this next year, 2024, Lord, that you give us more, Lord. We are wanting more. Give us more verses, give us more promises on the things that you want us to do, Lord, and equip us, Lord. Give us the capacity to do all the things that you want us to do, Lord. And both, I pray for both Joanna and Nisi, Lord. I pray that that you bless them, Lord. That you take them further in all the things that they have to do, Lord. Joanna with her business and Bible school and her career, Lord. I pray that she's able to see more of you, Lord. Bless her abundantly, Lord, in all the areas, Lord. Show her all the favor, Lord. And even with Nisi, Lord, as she's about to start nurse anesthesia school, Lord, show her all the favor in the eyes of her professors, Lord. Give her like the right connections, the right clinical rotations, right hospitals, right people to shadow under, Lord. I pray that that she's able to see more and more goodness of you, Lord, during these seasons, Lord. And I pray for myself also, Lord. Continue teaching me more, Lord. And as we wrap up, Lord, I pray and thank you again for all the things that you've taught us, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.